What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 90210 Faux Show podcast. I am Eric Pinnell. I am the guy that's going to be reviewing 90210. Okay, this is one of my favorite shows throughout the 90s, and I loved it. I don't know why. I didn't really admit that for many years that I was a 90210 guy, okay? And really liked it. I know a lot of people out there did. So yesterday, I don't know if you heard my first podcast. Please check that out. It was the first episode I reviewed. That was called Class of Beverly Hills. Okay, that's the very first episode where it introduces all these characters and introduces, Steve Sanders, Brenda Walsh, which are twins, which I kind of forgot about that they were twins. That was really amazing. The very beautiful Kelly Taylor and, Steve Sanders, and I think I said that already. David Silver, that's what I was trying to think of. Andrea Zuckerman, right? Introduced Andrea. First of all, let's not forget about the back characters that it introduced. It introduced Cindy and Jim Walsh. Very classy family, okay? And it quickly got to it to let you know that, like, Brenda was kind of a loser at her last school, and Brandon's Mr. Outgoing. And, I love how it just got into it. It just got into how, like, Steve and Brandon sat down beside each other, and that's how they became buddies. Steve's kind of, it's showing who he is. He's a little hotshot Beverly Hills kid. Mother's a actress, Samantha Sanders. It's already putting that in there, and and then it showed Kelly Taylor and kind of like a shadowed what she had going on with her life, and as the future goes on with Kelly Taylor, we find out that she looks great, but she's got some baggage because she's even rich kids come from like rougher homes, I guess. And and it showed David Silver of how he wants to be the end kid and his little buddy that's just never going to fit in with him and stuff like that, which we all know how that ends, everybody. And so let's get into it. If you didn't listen to that podcast, please listen to it. I talk about 20, 22 minutes or so about it in length. I'm just kind of doing a review on the first one, kind of shaping it up right there, the first episode. I thought it was pretty good. I thought for an introduction, it was like a 2-hour episode. So if anybody didn't see the very first 90210, it's like a 2-hour episode. So they really gave you a lot to shape it up. And and it wasn't bad. So please check that out. Class of Beverly Hills. Instantly Brandon and Brenda are automatically get into like these love interests already, which, look, I get it. They probably didn't know that they was going to make the run that 90210 did, so they're like, fuck, we only got so many episodes. We got to get into this. We got to get in. So that's one thing, like I said on my last podcast, that's one thing I liked about 90210. They always had like a message to be told, right? Where there's like bulimia or like homeless people. I mean, I don't know if these are real. I know the homeless thing was a real episode, but the bulimia, the eating disorder, I think it was. I think the eating disorder was. So this episode that I want to talk about is episode 2 of 90210. It's called The Green Room, okay? And the good thing about The Green Room that I like about it is from the first episode, there was a character that you did not see in the very first 90210 episodes, all right? It's the very, very sexy, very mystique. He's got like a mystique, and he's a mysterious, student, Dylan McKay, okay? We all know about Dylan McKay. What a hot piece of ass he was. And I'm a straight man, but like I call it like I see it. You know what I'm saying? I like to call it like I see it. Dylan McKay. If that guy was in high school, especially when you seen him, like he had the James Dean thing going on when it was like, whoa, who the fuck is this guy, right? I mean, Brandon Walsh had the James Dean thing going on too. He's like the Midwest James Dean. But like Dylan McKay, first of all, I mean, he's cool as fuck, all right? In this episode, The Green Room, all right, it shows Dylan surfing. Yeah, pretty badass. Shows him reading poetry, okay? Dylan's fucking reading poetry. Is what I'm saying, all right? I mean, how many, like, cool dude... And he's also Dylan, First of all, let me not jump ahead here, okay? I mean, it sounds like I'm a little boner hard for fucking Dylan McKay. I'm just saying, game recognizes game, okay? I see a lot of Dylan McKay, what I got myself. Not really, I'm just... A lot of people, like, clicking off right there, like, I'm out of here. This dude... But yeah, so let's get into this, the Green Room here. So it's basically, again, you're seeing, Cindy Walsh is having some issues. Everything's a little bit different here, right? And then you also see Steve Sanders, he's kind of like, yeah, and I see you, Kelly Taylor. You're giving me an attitude. I wasted a whole year on you, Kelly. So it looks like Steve on these early episodes, that was like his thing. He was kind of still hung up on Kelly a little bit, but he's talking like she ain't kind of shit, and then she's kind of looking at him like she ain't shit. Kelly obviously knew that her and Steve weren't a match, and that was very immature of Kelly Taylor to be like, I gotta move on with Steve Sanders, right? And I do notice in the second episode of The Green Room that Steve Sanders and David Silver's going out his way to be buddies with Steve Sanders, because you can tell he's like really like, big brother in him and stuff, and he's like, come on, Steve, let's hang out, and Steve's just like, get this kid away from me, right? All right, I like it. And I like how Andrea Zuckerman, like, she's really just, that newsroom, she's the editor of the school paper, and she's really just giving it to Brandon right out of the gates, right? Just like, I'm not impressed with you. I'm an overachieving young Jewish woman, and I really am not impressed with your Midwest swang, is what she's basically saying to Brandon Walsh, which, I get it, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she's like a poor girl, too, She lives at home with her grandma outside of 90210, but nobody knows that. Just keep that down, okay? And Brandon knows about it, And she likes that he knows about it. She's like, Brandon and Andrea in the first episode, they already made a bond. I mean, they're slowly becoming friends, more friends and stuff like that. But let me get to it. So then Dylan McKay, okay? So Brandon and God, why can't I think of this kid's name that was David Silver's little buddy, right? So Brandon and David Silver's little buddy were in it looks like the library room where the computer was at. And his little buddy's like, he's like, I can't get into nightclubs, but I could use my imagination, because he's designing a nightclub. The little nerd dude is designing a nightclub, right? He's never been to a nightclub, but you could tell, like, hey, this is a smart kid. Okay, this is a good little smart kid. And there ain't nothing wrong with this kid. If anybody watched these episodes, he's just kind of like a kid. Because, all these other people that are on the show, they're all like fucking 20-something-year-old people. And they always portrayed, like they were much older and stuff like that, man. Scott. So Scott is the kid's name that's in the library, in the computer room, right? Well, Brandy comes in and says, what are you doing? Scott's like, I'm designing a nightclub. Although I can't go in there, I'm just using my imagination. You're like, God, this is a good kid, right? So then two asshole bullies come up, like, right? The classic, I got a football jacket, Letterman jacket on, and the other guy's got like a cuffed up button up that's opened up with a t-shirt. And they're like, what are you doing? What are you doing, you little nerd? Then they grab him up. And then Brandon's like, hey, why don't you leave him alone? And then out of nowhere, Brandon looks to his right, and in the shadows is cool-ass Dylan McKay with the classic, it must be like a science room or something, because I can't even explain it. It's those electric, I can't even explain it, but you can tell it's like a science room or something they're trying to portray here. And Dylan McKay with his boyish looks and his good fucking hair and his jawbone and his nice nose and his fucking puppy dog eyes turns around and basically says, go ahead, touch him. I dare you. I dare you. Like Dylan McKay looks like he probably weighs like 120. Right? And this one guy's outsizing him. Both of them are outsizing. They both could whip his ass probably. But for some reason, rich kid Dylan McKay has the reputation around the school. Don't fuck with him. He's kind of crazy and he's a loose cannon. And Dylan tells him out of nowhere, he goes, just to let you know, I'm not in a good mood today. Okay? That's basically what he's saying. And they go, okay, rich kid, we don't want any fucking problems with you. And then they walk away, right? And it shows that Dylan has no problem fighting. And it also shows that Dylan has a nice side that he's sticking up for, like young, wimpy little Scott right here that looks like he was possibly getting bullied right there. Yeah, although Scott's wearing a Magic Johnson t-shirt with, those ones with the big heads and the body on it and stuff. Yeah, they made the big head on Magic and then his skinny body because they found out he had AIDS, so that's why they made that t-shirt like that. So then they cut to the next scene. Brandon's outside, like, hey, I want to be your friend. I see Dylan on the steps reading poetry. Right? Like he's up there reading Yeats or something, or I don't know what he's reading. But he's up there, Dylan's up there, and Brandon's like, hey, I got next period off. Do you wanna get lunch? And Dylan's like, yeah, lunch. Yeah, like he's saying like lunch. He's basically still putting up the wall for Brandon. It's like, fuck you. But then he grabs Brandon and they go to the beach, right? He goes, come on, come with me, kid. We're going off campus, right? That's what Dylan says to Brandon. They go to the beach. He's in his, first of all, Dylan has this fucking badass fucking Porsche. If anybody watched 90210, God damn, what year of Porsche was that? I mean, what year was that, man? That dude, Dylan McKay's Porsche was so fucking cool. And so Dylan's already dripping fucking awesomeness, right? I mean, it's a 1961 Porsche is what it's saying. It's a 356 Speedster convertible black Porsche. I mean, and that's what Dylan has. So Dylan says, come on, Brandon, come with me. We're going to go to the beach. I'm going to throw a fucking surfboard in the back of my fucking convertible black badass fucking vintage Porsche. He pulls up on there, and then you see the surfer dudes that are from, they're from the valley where the shadows get dark out there. And there's a nice girl, but she's kind of a dummy and a follower, and she's hanging with these two knucklehead surfers that don't care about her. So that's where the episode's going, where it's like, she's a good girl, but she's hanging out with these dummies, and she's got a real good heart, but she's a real big follower and stuff like that. And that's where the whole episode goes. And that's where the moral part is, right? So that's how it sets it up. Brandon and her kind of hit it off. I don't know if it's like a love interest. I think it's more like, because Brandon would meet people, and so would Kelly and these people. They would meet people. Sometimes they wouldn't be the love interest. Sometimes it'd be like, hey, we got to do a do-gooder episode here. And there's a homeless woman with a dog. What are we going to do here? And it's like, Brenda's going to take her home. Something like that, right? And it shows that Brenda and Kelly are kind of hanging out, going to expensive stores. Steve Sanders, you don't see his mom, but he talks to her through an intercom saying, hey, you want to eat dinner? And then one of the things that I noticed about this episode, The Greenhouse, they go, Steve Sanders' mom, Samantha Sanders, which is an Asian actress, okay? Because she used to be on a show called, I'm pretty sure, Hartley House. I might be wrong on that. I might have to look that up too. And Steve Sanders' mom's, looking for work. And the only mistake that I just wonder if they made is that Steve Sanders' mom, Samantha Sanders, goes, hey, David Silver, the kid you go to school with, his dad is a producer on a movie, and just, kind of be nice to him or something like that, right? Because Samantha Sanders is trying to get work out of it. Although, the first thing I thought of, David Silver, his dad, Mel Silver, is, Mel Silver is a dentist, okay? So I don't know if I don't know the movie industry, of course. I'm doing a podcast in my basement right now on old 90210 episodes with my fucking German Shepherd dog breathing heavy on the second step in my cold basement. Okay, so I don't know the Hollywood game, but maybe he is a producer and he just puts his money up and that's like an investment or something like that. I'm not sure how that works, but I just wonder if they didn't know how Mel Silver was going to be and they didn't even think that far down the road is kind of like what I was thinking. And, but yeah, so this episode is very interesting. And they call it the green room because I thought they were going to, when I first started watching it again, because I forget some things, I was thinking like, do they call it the green room because Dylan's getting high, smoking weed with the surfers? And they're like, no, the green room is when you're in the ocean and you're surfing and you're in that green room or it's something like that. I mean, trust me, there's people out there maybe listening that'd be like, dude, that ain't totally what they meant, man. You're totally getting it wrong, man. Are you going to do this podcast right or what, man? I mean, if you're going to chronologically do this, I mean, a historian is a historian. I mean, whatever. If you're taking fucking 90210 history a little too serious, I mean, I'm not trying to botch it, mess it up here. So then, for some reason, these guys are high school kids. I think they're like 9th and 10th graders. I think 10th graders now. Now I'm kind of getting, because if David Silver is there and he's an underclassman, I think David is in 9th grade, but these guys are 10th graders, which it's hard to believe that these guys are this cool even in 10th grade, right? But they're trying to get into like clubs and stuff, and I don't know. But it shows how like these surfer guys are treating a woman kind of bad, and Dylan and the surfers and the woman and Brandon, they go back to this hotel, right? They go back to the famous, very, very famous hotel that Dylan McKay stayed at through off and on most of 90210. All right, I don't know if anybody knows this, but Dylan McKay, even in high school, he stayed at a motel. All right, and that's where he lived, and it was called. I'm trying to get the name of it right here. It was called the. I should probably know it off the top of my head. It's called the. The Dell. Oh God, I can't remember. I'm gonna have to look it up. But they went back to Dylan's hotel room, is what I'm saying. And the Beverly Hills Royal Hotel. Okay, so they go back to his. They go back to. Oh no, it's the Bel Age Hotel. It's the Bel Age because then Dylan goes to a different one. He must go to the Beverly Hills Royal as time goes on. But so yeah, that's why I couldn't find it. It's the Bel Age Hotel, right? And Brandon doesn't know this. Brandon just thinks that Dylan is going to this hotel, and he kind of breaks in. Dylan kind of acts like they're checking doors. You know, I don't know why he's doing that. He's trying to play it off like he doesn't live there. Maybe he doesn't want to tell these creeps that he's there with the surfer losers that, hey, this is my spot. But he finds a room with the doors open. He kind of walks in. They start ordering room service. Brandon, which it's definitely showing character stuff, how Brandon's like, look, dude, I just want to hang with you like a buddy, but I'm not into this type of thing, and I'm leaving, right? And that was it's showing a lot about his character. But then it shows Dylan follow him outside of the hotel room and go, hey, man, I thought you wanted to have some fun. He goes, yeah, but this ain't fun. Okay, and then he finds out by the concierge, the guy that's the room service guy, comes up to Dylan and goes, would you like it in this room, Mr. McKay, or would you like it in that room? And I don't know if that's exactly what he says, but, and then Brandon's like, he's like, oh, so you live here? And he's like, yeah, I live here. You know, my mom and dad's upstairs, but they're not really into parenting, okay? So you already see that, look, these are rich kids, and from the appearance, they look like they're like, fuck, man, you got the world, but Dylan has a dad that doesn't care, and I guess he has a mom that's kind of checked out, maybe, and we'll get into that later as episodes go on. But don't get me started on Jack McKay, okay? I mean, the wrongs that he did to this kid. But so Brandon and him find out, and then Brandon says, "I'm fucking out of here, and don't call me Minnesota anymore. My name's Brandon, okay? Brandon." And it's so stupid. I mean, but when I oh, God. So yeah, so you're already seeing how these characters are shaping up. I mean, I like it. And it looks like Brenda's not really having any problems. It looks like Kelly and Brenda are kind of, you know, I mean, they got some growing pains. It looks like Brenda's noticing the price of things at these clothing stores that these kids are going to, and Brenda's like, I can't even keep up with this money, right? And then, you know, but I like the connections that they still show that Brenda and Brandon have as they brush their teeth and they're kind of hanging out at the house and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, it's just two kids from Minnesota just trying to adjust to the beach life, you know, and this new lifestyle. You know, so, and also in this episode, the green room is so Brenda and Kelly and Donna Martin go to the beach, right? Donna doesn't really say much in these episodes yet. They get, you can tell that they were really, the pillars of this really was Steve, Kelly, Brenda, Brandon, and Dylan McKay. I mean, those are the pillars. So really, the first two episodes at this point, David Silver has a really small presence. A little bit more than Donna, of course. But Donna has really no presence, which don't even get me started with Donna Martin and the growth of her. I mean, you want to talk about a timeline that is just like, wow, very proud of you, young lady. Donna Martin collection, don't even get me started. Okay, let's just stay on episode 2. All right? So Brandon goes to the beach also. He sees these two surfer bums with this woman, this young lady that they treat like shit. And she's a little bit drunk because she's hanging with these two clowns, and they're kind of clowning her. And he's basically like, why are you hanging out with these guys or whatever like that? And, you know, and Brandon basically just tells the girl like, hey, she was like, Brandon, I thought we had a connection. He was like, yeah, but this ain't you, okay? You getting drunk like this ain't you, dummy. So then he sees Dylan and literally still on the beach as he walks away from it. Dylan comes up in a wetsuit and some wet hair. And Dylan's like, hey, man, real corny shit, right? I mean, the writing is not that great at this point. But Dylan's like, look, man, can we let bygones be bygones? And he literally, I think he says, I want to be your friend. Like, I want to be your friend. All right? Who the fuck says that? Like, dude, I grew up with kids that, like, if I went up to them and was like, hey, man, I want to be your friend, they would have beat my ass. I would have got fucked up every day I walked home from school if I was like, hey, man, I just want to be your friend. So, yeah. So Dylan and him kind of squash it. Dylan hits right back to the beach, and they go, wow, okay. And Brandon kind of looks off like, all right, I got a friend. All right. Steve Sanders sees David Silver at the beach, knowing that his dad, Mel Silver, the producer / dentist at this point, you know, so Steve's like, hey, man, my mom says say hello to your dad. You know, Steve's playing the Hollywood thing, and then you know, but then also Scott, you know, David's friend's like kind of clueless and out of it. He's a good friend though. Then the young lady that was drinking on the beach, that is getting treated like shit by these surfer guys, that's the girl from the valley. Brandon sees her surfing out there and just floating in the water, face down, drowned. Brandon grabs her out of the water in his jeans and his sweater, I think, and then gives her mouth to mouth. Tells Bren, not Brenda, Bren. Okay, so a lot of times I'm gonna as time goes on, I'm gonna refer to some of these characters as Kel and Bren. Okay, and you gotta have to keep up. Okay, that's all I'm asking, to keep up. Bren and Kel. And he says Bren. I don't know if he says Bren, but he goes, call 911, right? So he's giving her the mouth to mouth, and then basically Brandon's a hero. He saves the girl's life. So is Kelly. I mean, Brenda. She was in on it. But they were like, man, these kids are heroes. If you would have never done that, the doctor says she would have died. And then, Cindy McKay is like this. So then Cindy McKay is like, oh, you guys are so good kids. We got these Midwestern ways. So then Brandon, I think the next day, goes to the beach, right? And where these surfer two dudes hang out. It's just themselves, right? And they're on the beach. And Brandon basically walks up with that Midwest bout it shit, right? And Brandon goes, did you see what happened to what's her name? And they're like, no, what happened to her? We left her. And they go, yeah, she fucking drowned. She didn't say fucking drowned. I don't even know exactly what he said. And then they bowed up. These surfer dudes are like, I'll whip your ass, little Midwest boy. And then Brandon ain't scared. Brandon Walsh, bout it. You know what I'm saying? He was like, So then he starts pushing back and getting at him and stuff like that. And I think they grab Brandon and kind of, they both grab him and they start thumping him in the stomach, the classic movie thing. And then Dylan gets on it, like spreads them apart, like, well, what happened? What happened to her, man? What happened? And they're like, I don't know. And then Brandon's like, you didn't even care about her. And then, so they had a little bit of an attitude. And then Brandon walks away. Dylan walks up on these dudes. And they're still jawing, like basically like, whatever, man. Whatever. And then Dylan just walks up on the dude and kind of pulls him to the side and says, hey, man, he kind of grabs him by the neck. First of all, if anybody's grabbing me by the neck, something's going to happen. Then he just stomps on this dude's surfboard and cracks it in half after he gave him a good message of like, you're a scumbag and I'm Dylan McKay and I will fuck you up, basically. All right? That's what he was saying. And then Dylan catches up to Brandon and says, hey, what you did there is good, bud, and we're buddies and we kind of think alike. Then like a lot of episodes of 90210, it shows Brendan and Brandon back at the house. They're in their PJs. Cindy Walsh is there, and they're just all kind of trying to sum up their new world of like, yeah, this is what's going on, right? And then you see Dylan. He's kind of in his hotel by himself, and he's kind of like, you see why Dylan McKay is Dylan McKay. I mean, they were working on his character from the start. I do give them that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was showing these kids that they're rich, but they do have problems. And I think that's one of the things why people liked about it, right? I mean, I think that's why they like shows like this. They attach problems to it. This episode, towards the end, it did show David Silver a little bit. And it did show Scott a little bit more than I thought. As I watched these, I didn't even know Scott was in it this much, but he was always in the shadows when David's talking to Steve Sanders or he's trying to get it. Scott was buddies with David. That's the sad thing about the whole Scott thing as we go on, and people that watch these and they know what happened to Scott. Scott was like David's friend forever. I mean, so really, I'll give it up to him. They were given some writing stuff early on, and David was just trying to grow up and trying to be hip and in the in crowd and this world that he thought he wanted or that he wanted and stuff like that. And Scott, he really didn't have the ambition for that and the goal for that. And Scott was just wanting to be David's friend. And it looked like David was friends with him too at this point, I mean, they're still got that old buddy thing going on. But as time goes on, that does change. And yeah, I mean, this was a good episode, The Green Room. I mean, it's, at the end, it shows Brandon finally meets the young surfer lady that drowned out there. And she basically sums it up of like, look, I was a dummy. I got to stop hanging out with these dudes and I'll be all right. And they kind of, they put a cap on it to where it's like, oh wow, they start the story, they end the story, like and it shows 2 episodes in that Brenda and Brandon Walsh are gonna be okay. I mean, how could they not be okay with those great parents, Jim and Cindy? They're they're excellent parents, guys. Keep listening to the podcast. This is a 90210 faux show podcast, okay? I am Eric Pennell. You can check out my other podcast on the Laugh Factory Network. It is called This Is For The Birds. It's on the Laugh Factory Network. It's with the very funny Russ Williamson and Pat Kelly. Again, I'm Eric Pennell. You can catch me on Eric J. Pennell on Twitter, or you can catch me at Eric Pennell 1975 on Instagram. That's Pennell. And thank you for listening. Subscribe. Please tell your friends about this. If not, just listen to it when you're at work, fucking just wasting time. 90210, what an excellent show. Please, people, walk with me. It's also on the Pop channel if you want to get some reruns. If not, please tune in. Thank you, guys.